So last week I shot a video on Ratchet and Clank, and in that I talked about how I believe the only other video game adaptation I have is Dead Space. And I did look around and try to confirm whether that was true or not, and it does seem to be true. But I figured now is a good time to talk about Dead Space, because just thematically I don't know when this is going to pop up again. One thing I want to talk about before I get into the book, though, is there's a box that I've been putting up here for a while, and in that it has the format that I'm looking at, the retail price, the page count, that sort of information. And I do that after I shoot the video. This time, though, I tried to do it beforehand just to get ahead for the first time ever. And when I looked up that information for Ratchet and Clank, I found on Amazon, because Amazon is a good source for page count, so I usually wind up there at some point. The people were selling this for over $100, and I'm like, that can't be right. So I went over to eBay. Same thing there. I don't understand it. It's a good book. I enjoyed it. I recommend it. Not for $100 though. That's insanity. There should be a digital version of this as well. If you just want to read it, not own a physical copy, you can read this for less than $100. Dead Space, though, there were two third-party sellers, one for $250, one I think for $295, which is, I don't understand. I just fundamentally do not understand. This is also a good book. I will ultimately recommend this as well. $250 though is absolute insanity. So Dead Space is a game that I played, I think, about for an hour. Nothing against the game. It's just not something that I'm usually into, and it was fine. It just didn't hook me, and I stopped playing at that point. But I did wind up buying a comic for it. Why? Because you can't see it, but there. So Antony Johnston and Ben Templesmith are the two reasons I got this. I discovered Antony Johnston, this is back in 2002. I want to say this actually came out in 2001, but I know I found it in 2002, and the only way that I make sense of time is based on where I was living at the time, so that's how I keep track of where and when. But I found this in California, so it must have been 2002. I really enjoyed it. This is actually illustrated prose. It's not a comic. But at that point, I started paying attention to Antony Johnston. He hasn't written a terrible amount, but anytime his name pops up, I pay attention. And so him and Templesmith did a Dead Space book, and I bought it, and I enjoyed it. You can probably imagine, if you're familiar at all with Templesmith, what the art looks like, but here's just a random page. Very random. And, oop, there's a bit more action. The story is actually a prequel to the video game, so if you know anything about the game, you probably also know, or you can imagine, that things don't go well for any of the cast members here. But in the beginning, we do get who the cast are and a bit of history about them, which is helpful because I think these two look a little bit similar. She's different. And then these two guys with glasses, one has a mustache, one doesn't, but I don't know, their character designs are, I feel, a bit similar. This is actually, it reminds me of things like Alien 3 or The Thing or Event Horizon. It is, I say Alien 3 because it's a large facility, but the cast is small. And then Event Horizon or The Thing, it's actually it's a small cast that goes increasingly insane, increasingly horrific things are happening, and the cast sort of loses their mind while dealing with it. So this, they call it a marker a lot. object. I don't want to say monolith, but this object is found on a planet that is being... should have lost the word. And as soon as it's discovered, people's brains are affected. Not everyone, not immediately, but it does reach most of the colony's population in time, and by then it's too late. Like, the impact has been made, the snowball has started rolling, and everything's just going downhill now. So if you are interested in a horror survivalist story, then if you know anything about Dead Space, if you enjoyed Dead Space, I do recommend grabbing the book. There should be a digital copy of this available. It was put out by Image, and Image was great about making their comics digitally available. It's been, honestly, a couple of years since I've checked into any of that, but if you can find it, if you are interested, I do recommend grabbing this. Again, Antony Johnston, he's not a prolific writer, in my experience, but what he does write is great. And then Templesmith, you probably have feelings one way or another about his art already. I think he works well in horror, and this is a good book. So, I'm repeating myself now, but if you are interested, I do recommend grabbing this. Not for $250.